from around the world to around the world. This is Doug Brunke, founder and CEO of Global Chamber. Really appreciate you joining us today on a really important topic, especially considering what's happening in the world today. Suddenly everything's virtual, and heading down to the store doesn't always make.
Hold on. There's an issue here. I'm just clicking on the broadcast and it's not working.
Uh-oh, okay.
Yeah. That's weird. First time it's happened to me.
Yeah, this has not happened. Sorry, guys. Hold on.
No worries. Okay.
I'm just clicking on that. You know, we have the orange bar on top that say broadcast so everyone else can see, but it's not working.
Rayhan says it's working fine there.
Oh, yeah?
So maybe.
So
yeah.
it's probably on my side then. So go ahead and sorry for that then.
Okay. No worries. Hopefully we're going to get it recorded because I don't see that button. But nonetheless, hey, thanks everybody again for joining us today. Really appreciate it. The world is changing, and one of the changes that any business needs to think about right now is, how do I reach more customers? And they may not be coming to my brick and mortar location anymore. I'll likely have to reach them via the internet. And so our first speaker today is perfectly positioned to kick us off from a foundational perspective on e-commerce, because Isaiah Bollinger is the CEO and founder at Trellis. He originally founded Trellis to design and develop web experiences that would provide a business, whether it was big or small, a competitive advantage on the internet. And so now, instead of competitive advantage, we've got a situation where it's survival. And so Isaiah, hey, thank you for kicking us off today, and we look forward to learning more.
Yeah. Let me share my screen. You know, I just wanted to kind of present something fairly digestible, I hope, and I think we allotted about 10 minutes. Is that correct?
Yep, that would be perfect.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about really haven't, like, in my opinion, coronavirus has just really accelerated things in terms of e-commerce, but a lot of the same principles are just still the same from before. But obviously, the urgency and the impact is bigger than it ever has been in terms of, there's not a lot of ways to buy right now other than e-commerce. I mean, most stores are shut down, and if you can go to a store, you want to kind of be limiting yourself because people don't want to get exposed. So most of the time, people are only going to stores for the grocery store. Just a little bit about us. You know, we do a lot of different things. We work with, you know, Shopify, Magento, WordPress, BigCommerce. You know, we're very well versed in like Google's marketing platform, Facebook and Pinterest, and a lot of other technology. So we've done a lot of work in the entire e-commerce ecosystem. We have like hundreds of e-commerce add-on partners like Yotpo and things like that, Klaviyo. So what we're seeing, what really like hit us in the early, I would say like early to mid-March, is it's basically affecting every industry differently. So obviously, if you sell groceries, you know, your revenue is probably at an all-time high. I guess as long as you can keep getting enough inventory to sell. But from an e-commerce perspective, it's also hitting every industry differently. So the industries that got them like most negatively affected were all of our like apparel clients, fashion and apparel. A lot of our luxury like clients have been affected. A lot of them sell wholesale too. So, I mean, really anyone that sells wholesale that's not selling to like groceries or hospitals or something like that has been affected pretty badly. But just even online, specifically, we saw apparel and fashion and some beauty and health and luxury items get hit. Promotional products is a big segment that we do really well on. That got hit really hard. Obviously, because that's really driven through events. So it's really industry specific. Education got hit hard in some ways, depending on if they sold to schools online or not. But there's potential for them to sell to homes. So we're trying to help some of those companies pivot to selling direct to consumer instead of selling to schools. The areas that we see that are doing really well are like toys and games, like fitness and outdoors is doing really well. Like we have like some mosquito repellent type clients and things like that that are doing really well. Like we work with Tom Brady's company, TB12 Sports online. They're doing pretty well in terms of people are buying like home gym equipment is like one of the highest. And then a lot of like random accessories and things that you just like, I guess like bread makers are really high. So things that you're just like, oh, like, you know, what am I going to do? I'm going to cook at home. So, you know, we bought like, my girlfriend bought new pots and pans at home. So I'd imagine, unfortunately, actually we do have clients that are sort of in that space, but not, I would imagine some home cookware clients could be doing pretty well. So it's really industry specific, and each industry has their own challenges. Like in distribution and manufacturing, we have a distribution client that couldn't get enough of protective equipment supply, so then they couldn't, you know, they have demand for it, but they couldn't get the supply because obviously supply. So everything is kind of like upside down in terms of what's going on, and it's very industry specific, and a lot of people are having to pivot really quickly. Surprisingly, we have some automotive aftermarket clients that are doing okay, even though automotive is struggling. So I think that the key, you know, before I move on, is just like everything is so specific to the nuances of each client right now, more so than ever before, is kind of what we're seeing. And e-commerce is kind of like an extension of that. So I just kind of wanted to break down the trends that we see are most successful from B2C and B2B. So B2B is the next slide. For business to consumer, we're seeing a lot of success with Google Ads. Like I think what might have happened is that a lot of industries got hit pretty hard. So maybe Google Ads as a whole is down because, you know, not everyone doing Google Ads is necessarily an e-commerce business, and just generally, it seems like our costs, like the costs aren't as high for us, but the effectiveness is still really strong. So Google Shopping Network, all that, all the Google side of things seems to be working really well for our clients. So I think between that and social media, like you have to kind of figure that out. I think it's in e-commerce. The reality is for business to consumer, if you can't figure out how to make online advertising profitable, it's going to be almost impossible to be successful by just like SEO or non-paid ads. I don't know many businesses that are really effective in business to consumer that don't have a successful ad strategy. And obviously the main ad platforms are, you know, Google's platform. Actually, Bing, I think is kind of, you know, I would lump Bing into that. I think there's some potential with Bing. And then the other is, you know, Facebook, obviously, and Instagram. We're actually seeing Pinterest as really effective. We've had some really high ROI. And so what we're seeing is that like, you basically need to figure out how to get a 2 to 3, at least, I mean, it could, obviously you can get 10 or 20. What that means is you need to figure out how to put $1 into Facebook and get $2 back or $3 back, meaning of every dollar you're spending, you know, you're getting $2 in e-commerce revenue. And there's a lot of tracking and attribution that goes into that. And there's different ways to kind of do that. But we've got a really good system around providing that insight, and we actually do performance-based marketing. So it's like based on the ROI that they're getting is how much we kind of make money. So from what we're seeing is that the companies that have figured this out, or in a lot of cases we've helped them figure this out, they're the ones that are thriving. But the ones that haven't figured out how to make advertising successful seem to be not really doing that great. I would also add email and SMS. I think SMS is now more like, you know, text messaging is more important than ever. In the last like 2-3 years, it really took off. And I've had a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't want to text people. I think you just have to stop like being fearful of, oh, like I don't want to bot, like it works. Like, I don't know what else to say other than it's really effective if you do it correctly. Obviously email is kind of tried and true. So I think you have to figure out how to make Google ads and social media and all that work well. And you have to figure out how to like use email and SMS as kind of like almost like a retention tool as your own channel that you build up by getting your own, you know, list and community around your e-commerce store. We're also seeing that like the simpler, cleaner design, specifically like Shopify has done really well with that. is working really well. You don't have to kind of overthink design. Like a lot of these, even some of our clients that we've implemented, we basically like lightly customize the theme, is still pretty effective on Shopify. So I think simplifying your operations and making sure that you can make it really clear and efficient in terms of how you get the product out. I mean, that could be as simple as I have a Shopify website. I connect it to like a company like ShipBob, who's designed, they're like a fulfillment center that, you know, can easily integrate with Shopify, and they are like very well versed for safety shipping, right? Like their distribution network that's, you know, doing a really good job of staying safe during coronavirus. And you could ship them all your inventory, and that could be your operations, where like literally as long as they have inventory plugged into their, you know, warehouse ecosystem and plugged into Shopify, they can get the product out, and then it's a matter of marketing and selling the product. So I think you can, you know, you don't have to, like a lot of companies are so bogged down with legacy in-store operations and just legacy operations that they overcomplicate operations. And so they make it sound really complicated, but really there's a lot of technology out there that can simplify operations. The other trend we see is headless. Headless is more on the larger side for larger, like we see once you're starting to do like 10, 20, you know, and $50 million online, you start to hit some scalability issues with some of these platforms, and headless or progressive web application technology is more readily available to be built for e-commerce than ever before. And that's starting to help these companies scale. So we're pushing really hard to kind of make that more common and help companies move forward in that direction. A lot of times companies really neglect conversion rates and average order value. So obviously it's important to get, it kind of goes hand in hand with making the advertising work, because if your conversion rate's crappy, then it's hard to have good ROI on the ads. So there's a lot that goes into that. There's no way I could like possibly explain everything you should do to improve your conversions. But I think it's really just about being data driven. The data's there. Google Analytics is literally free. I mean, it's not too hard to look at, okay, here are all my channels, here are the ways that people are coming. You can look at how people are coming to your site, where they're dropping off. You can use data to really influence your decisions on how to improve your website and improve conversions and average order value. The one thing I really like about Shopify is they also have such a good app ecosystem, and a lot of the apps out there are designed to help with conversions or average order value and things like that. I also think marketplaces should be part of your strategy. They don't have to be, but I think if I was running a business to consumer website, I would probably have some sort of operations that tied into direct to consumer fulfillment through some sort of third party warehouse or my own warehouse if I could run my own warehouse effectively. And then, you know, using some sort of warehouse management tool. There's like, I think Skubana is a somewhat popular one that plugs into the marketplaces. So there's a lot of these tools that will also plug into, like on the back office inventory fulfillment, that will also plug directly into the marketplaces. So it's not too difficult to build a unified kind of like inventory management process and structure that allows you to plug into all the marketplaces and your own website, and basically sell. Like your website should be your main focus and channel, but you can still sell on the marketplaces. And then you can choose. And what I think seems to be successful is maybe some of your commodity items put on the marketplace, and maybe some of your more important items that you don't necessarily want commoditized on your website, and you don't have them on the marketplaces. But that way you're still tapping into this like massive, you know, marketplace ecosystem that's, you know, obviously going to be bigger than what you have. How much time? Oh, sorry, I realized I still have some Lauren Ipsum text. I kind of rushed through this slide, but how much time? I just want to make sure I don't want to kill the time here.
Yeah, probably should be wrapping up.
Okay, so sorry, I'm going over time. On the B2B side, a lot of the same things apply. Just to kind of summarize, it's different. I mean, it's more operationally driven, and we're really trying to push our clients to figure out how to make corporate buying more accessible and friendly. And a lot of that is hindered by pricing and things like that and product content. So you might have 100,000 products and these distributors have never had 100,000, you know, products on their website in kind of like a user-friendly way. And now all of a sudden they have to figure out how to do that. So they all of a sudden have to kind of like modernize and digitize their operations for e-commerce, but they're saddled with these old legacy systems that aren't designed for e-commerce. So you really have to kind of rethink how you're going to bring that forward. And Magento, the enterprise system, has done a good job of bringing a lot of those features in forward in a good way. But yeah, I could spend a lot of time talking this, but I don't want to take up, I'm already over time. So I'll just kind of wrap up there, and we can maybe save the Q&A for specific topics.
Yeah, we'll have time for Q&A, so send your questions in and we're happy to answer those. We also talked earlier about having a follow-up discussion where we can get into some more details, especially for those companies that are interested in doing some implementation, kind of the next step. So thank you. Great start. My head is exploding with information. And I'm sure everybody is in the same boat. Great way to kick it off. And it's a good segue into Vinay Kulkarni. He's the founder and CEO of ALCHMI. He's a big thinker, but he rolls up his sleeves and gets things done. And one of the things I've known from Vinay for many years is that he works with a lot of clients all around the world, particularly in the US and some in India as well. He's based out of Bangalore, where he has been doing a lot of the shifting that Isaiah has talked about, not just on the e-commerce side, but overall their positioning and their branding, and making sure that besides all of the legacy and technology systems shifts, also the marketing side gets shifted properly as well. So Vinay, thank you so much for sharing your expertise today.
Thanks, Doug. And thanks, Isaiah. That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
You thought yours was a 50,000 foot view. Mine is going to be a 100,000 foot. So, and I have a lot more slides than you, and I have 4 minutes less than you. So let's see how we do this. Okay. All right. Here we go. So I've been asked to talk about strengthening your brand presence as you go online. So I'm going to try to address people who find themselves in a situation where they had to think about, what's the next step, maybe have to pivot or figure out some other way to survive, like Doug said. Quickly, a little bit about ALCHMI. We do a lot of things that Trellis does, but we are heavy on a strategy. So we can say from strategy to execution, a strategy to the market. In this context, I would bring up a model proposed by Dr. Vijay Govindarajan at Harvard. So it's called a 3-box solution, where it's relevant to every company. So and you're forced to think in these 3 boxes, right? So you got your traditional thing going on. So you're forced to quickly adapt to the new reality. So forget the past, right? And create the future and manage the current business. That's kind of how everyone should be thinking about this. Also, there's a strategic way of thinking about quickly evaluating what are your options in the current situation, right? So you already have some existing business, you have some existing products. What can you do with what you have? So this is just a diagram to think about it. So in terms of existing products and new products, existing markets and new markets. So you could think about if you're already in the e-commerce world, so maybe you have to think about deeper market penetration, which requires you have to differentiate more than all your other competitors. And you also have to invest more in retaining your existing clients, give them more, and also try to get more share of wallet business from the existing customers. You can also think about taking your existing products into new markets. If you already have the delivery platform, everything set up, you could also think about coming up with new products for existing markets. It doesn't mean that you actually have to go through the whole new product development process. There can be many opportunities lying, right in front of your eyes, where you had to modify the existing products slightly and get into and take them into existing markets. And you can completely diversify. So some of our clients are having to go into completely new areas of business. That's a tough one, right? But it's still possible. So they're looking at how to, if you already have the online infrastructure, then you could think about what else you can bring and sell on your existing marketplace. So first thing I would say is understand your current business model in order to create a new business model. A lot of companies have grown and it's been 10 years, 20 years, and they may not have taken time to think about these things, that these things just kind of evolved. But now you go back to the drawing board, think about who's your ideal customer and what are their pain points. That is the current business. What's your existing value proposition? What's your success mantra? What's made you successful in the current business? What's your current cost structure, your current revenue model, and your delivery model, right? So you understand all that, so that your whole team needs to understand that too. And also, while the business model may change, your core purpose and core values, they're not up for, they should not be changing. So, but in a lot of companies have not taken the time to identify what these are. And also what you're known for in your industry, like what is your real expertise, right? Then you think about who do you want to serve and how. So you got to be clear about your target audience. Is it going to be the same market you're serving right now, or is it going to be a new audience? What does this market need and want most right now? So great companies solve, real problems for real people. You got to think about what's going on right now and what is most needed. Also, you have to manage the mental shift from offline to online. I'm helping some people go through that. And it's a tough one, because if you've been doing business a particular way for 10, 20 years, it's very hard to, think in terms of the online paradigm. Product, you need to have something to sell online, of course, if you're going to go this route. But the product is not enough. So most people think that, oh, I have this great product and, I'm going to sell. But product is not just product. It's also the service, the experience, and other things that customers value. And also in this environment, it's very hard to try to do it alone. So you have to build practical and effective partnerships. And you have to understand what it means to go online in its entirety, in all the different aspects. Trellis, I covered a lot of those things. Also, important thing is to learn to tell your story in seconds, not minutes or hours in an online world. So as soon as someone comes on your site, they have to immediately know what you are and what you sell and, and what they can get from you. Quick list of things. This is not in any particular order. I just put it together. So we have to be prepared to create that offline shopping experience online. How do you create that online? If your customers are used to coming to your store, physical store, and touching and feeling things, how do you create the same experience online? Also, attention to detail is going to be your new mantra when you're going online. And also, it might be obvious, but a lot of people neglect this. Good photography and videography is critical. A lot of people I'm working with who are trying to go online don't have any kind of assets, marketing assets. So it's very hard. You'll also need good packaging, attractive, practical, eco-friendly, user-friendly. Like I said before, the 30 seconds pitch of why people should buy from you. And user experience design is critical. And sure, it's becoming easier with platforms like Shopify and even Magento. So we do a lot of Magento work. There's a lot of options to deliver a great online experience. You just need to think through, really think about your customer and think through the experience you want to deliver for them, the experience that's going to be most beneficial for them. Also, for every industry, there's going to be some standards that put you in a particular league. So if you want to play in that field, make sure that you're on par with all the rest of your competition. Also, think about this, what to do and what not to do. I just thought of putting this list together based on what I'm seeing people do. What not to do. don't make your accountant your chief strategist. I love accountants; they're very important, but strategy is a different ballgame. Making your nephew your web designer, making your uncle your marketing advisor. Hire an advisor and not follow their advice. Imagine that you're the only player in the market, right? There's competition. So when there's competition, you need strategy. Also, a lot of people underestimate the time, effort, and money needed to go online from their offline business. So you have to be prepared to go for it, go for the long haul. But at the same time, don't get overwhelmed by all the choices and get paralyzed and not act at all. You have to act. Situations forcing you to act. What you have to do is, you got to do your homework, and you really have to think about your target audience. I keep saying that. The first step is always who's your ideal customer, and everything else follows from that. And also, I would suggest prototype your story before you prototype your business. You create your own mastermind group, and try to sell your new business story to them, see how they react before you put a lot of money into building that business. And definitely seek and use expert advice. A lot of experts are out there right now giving advice and willing to help. It's not going to cost you a lot of money right now to get some expert advice. And also competition. So company customer competition. Competition is very important. You really have to map out, in this whole scheme of things in your industry, what is going to be your position? What is it that you're offering that nobody else is? And also, I would say proceed with a written and continuously evolving plan. So quickly, I don't know how much time I have left. So I'll be happy to share this and help anybody who wants help with creating their own brand architecture, content architecture. But these are some major elements. What's your brand story? What's your founder story? What's your core ideology? What are some key concepts that are very important for your business? What are your best-selling programs or products? And of course, most important, what are your key differentiators? So you need to know this so I can help you create this brand architecture. Also quickly, 7 ways to differentiate your business. One is, think about whether you're positioning yourself as a brand versus commodity. That does require a lot of thinking. But even in this situation, investing in your brand is very important. So you need to also have, I know the times are tough and everyone's, you might be getting desperate, but still having a core purpose beyond making money is important for, overall success. You're making the shift, but still stay true to your own values, be authentic. So respond, but do not react, right? And let your product or service be unique. This is very critical, right? If you can, get this right, then all the other things in terms of marketing we talked about can really work. But if you're if you're going to be a Me Too product, then even experts are going to have a hard time helping you, take the market. Also, you cannot, overemphasize this providing a superior buying experience. Right now, there's so many apps and there's so many platforms that are there to help you, make the customer's buying experience convenient, comfortable, fun, exciting, and safe. But you need to really think through and do your homework and really map out that buying experience and see how you can deliver that online. Also, the after-sales service, right? This is going to be critical because, like I said earlier, product is not just product. Product is also the service that comes with it, and especially after the sale is done, right? A lot of companies leave their customers high and dry after the sale is done. I know the situation is tough and you're short-staffed, but you can use technology. There's a lot of new technology tools that can help you deliver great after-sales service. Think about how you can pack your product or service with a lot of added value. And that is going to be one of the key differentiators for your business. And finally, if you can figure out ways to personalize your product or service, I'm seeing suddenly more people spending time on the desktop. you know. So there's, earlier it used to be more mobile and tablet, and now there's equal, or, you know, desktop is taken over. So you can think about all that when you're trying to personalize your product or service. So to end, be different, unique, generous, and outstanding. Thank you very much.
That plane looks like it's upside down, so that is definitely unique. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And speaking of unique and special, and you talked about personalizing your business, our next speaker is Dr. Jagat Shah. He's the founder and CEO of the Global Network India and Vibrant Markets. Beyond that, he is the most connected, most extraordinary person you'd ever meet around small and medium-sized businesses. He's made it his life's work. He's in the Guinness Book of World Records multiple times on the work that he's done on long road trips and helping people connect with each other and gain the information that they need to be successful. So we're honored and pleased to have Jagat Shah here today, who will round up our panel of experts with comments undoubtedly that will be insightful and informative and very useful. Thank you, Dr. Shah.
Thank you, Doug and Cesar, for picking this up. I'll just share my screen. Yeah, it's okay, visible?
Looks good.
Yeah, okay. So I'm addressing primarily the small, medium enterprises, and generally I limit my work to my experience sharing today to India. Whenever I interact with small, medium businesses, I always start by asking them, do you buy products online? And everybody almost says yes. And when I say, do you sell online? So do you sell? No, most of them, they say we don't sell, right? This is the Indian case. And my philosophy, I always tell them, is almost every product or service can be sold online. And I then go on to show, I challenge, I tell your product, and I will give you an example on the website or somewhere that your product is being sold by someone online, right? But the problem is India is missing the bus. We have become a producer of IT. I will give some examples here in this talk today, where you will see that all these products are made in India, and India is such a big IT hub of the, IT producing country in the world, but we are not into that higher value chain of e-commerce. So, and this is where I try to motivate small, medium businesses. And e-commerce is about changing buyer behavior. Like Asia and Vinay both mentioned, behavior is changing. If you see India, almost 65% of India's population is below 35 years of age. And I will show you some figures of our smartphones and internet connectivity. And they have credit cards and they have debit cards, and they buy online. So it's not about technology. See, the problem in India, many small, medium business think they don't know about technology and IT, but it's more about logistics. 50% of e-commerce business is about logistics. And I always tell them that the only permanent constant today is change. Either you can be an agent of change or a victim of change. So whenever any companies come and tell me that I'm not doing well, I immediately put them into the victim of change, and then I try to analyze that what are you not doing wrong. And most of the time it comes out to be that they are not present online, so they are not changing. And e-commerce is not just about consumer goods. You know, a lot of people tell me in India, small, medium business, no, consumer goods can be sold, but I am in industrial goods and I am in services. Again, same logic. I tell them, you tell me your business and I will show you somebody in the world who is doing your business online. See, very quickly, here is the internet users data of the world. And if you see internet users in the world, 4.4 billion, smartphones, 3.5 billion, credit cards users, debit cards. I don't know if you are able to see the Indian data, but that itself will give you an indication of how large is the markets in India. This is a 2019 data. And this is also one perception which small, medium enterprises need to be educated on. It's the aggregator versus standalone model. And I'll give some examples. So I tell like Amazon, Flipkart, even service sector hotels are all aggregators. So if you are putting up your product into an aggregator, you will be able to sell fast, but your profits will be low, because the moment I, as a buyer, I go to see your product, on the right side, I see 10 more suppliers, and I'm able to compare prices. So, and even like Flipkart, I gave example of Flipkart. So Flipkart started in 2007 for hardly $100,000 investment, and they sold out at $22 billion year back to Walmart. And standalone, then I compare it to standalone. So I said standalone takes time. I'll give some examples here, but the profits are higher. It may take 1,000 days almost to stabilize for a standalone online site to sell. And then the best thing I have experimented with companies is to be a combo. Start with aggregator so that you learn, because you need to learn a lot of things. And you will be able to do it quickly, start your business quickly, but at the same time have standalone, maybe different brands. You put different brands, one into aggregator and one into your standalone. This is a BlueNile.com. I give example often. This is an example of India being a producer versus user. So we are not using technology within the country. We are producing technology for the world. So BlueNile.com is an American company. They sell diamond, gold, silver, diamond studded jewelry online. And last year their sales was something around, I think $400 million. And again, 7-8-year-old company. And they buy all the diamonds from Surat, which is a town in my state in Gujarat in India. All the diamonds come from there. This portal is made in Chennai in India. And right now there are 3,500 designs on this portal. And all these designs are made in Ahmedabad. So every raw material of this business in my city, every raw material of this business is Indian, but it's an American company, right? And it's listed in the New York Stock Exchange. So and we have a cluster of Surat in India, which produces $12 billion of diamonds a year. And the largest producer of that company, when I met him and I said, why we don't do something like this? His first question was, what is the cost of doing it? You know? So I tell him, you should have asked me what is the profit of doing it. So we still have to move into that spend, worry, and on mindset. This Cuckoo Towels, another Canadian company, they buy these towels from India at $1.50 and they sell for $12. Again, a portal is made in India. Towels are made in Solapur in Maharashtra, another state in India, and designs are also made in India. This is another company, personalizeddoormats.com. One lady runs this company, amazing. And her sales is $1.5 million. And she sells these doormats, which are made in India in LAP in the state of Kerala. And LAP town is hardly about, the total population is 600,000. But they control 80% of the world market of coir doormat, coir fiber made from coconut. And she buys from there for something around like $4 US. And she sells for $32 online. And her sales is $1.5 million. Again, the product is Indian. The portal is made in Ahmedabad in my city. So I use these examples to tell companies that, I mean, look, these are the examples, and these are all the beauty. These are all standalone portals. This is not aggregator. They are just doing diamonds. They are just doing towels. They are just doing doormats. Then I give the example of Cypress Industries. One of my friend has built this, and this is also an American company. And they buy all these auto parts. A lot of people tell me consumer goods are sold. We cannot sell industrial products. So this is actually the 50 fastest growing company in US. And they sell online. And they buy all these auto components from India and China. And I think their sales is in millions. So these are some examples where, again, the products are Indian, but which means, and these companies are doing good, which means from the product quality point of view, in India, there's no problem, because all these supplies are actually going from small, medium businesses in India. It's not that some large company in India is supplying them. So small, medium business quality is good. Otherwise it can't sell. It can't be sold by any of these. So it's just a question of understanding the logistics part. And this is what is the functional upgrading in the value chain. So right now, most of the Indian companies are doing this, small, medium enterprise production. They transport raw material to their factory, convert into finished product, quality checking and packing. I tell them, go one step behind, backwards and do designing. When I say designing, I'm not only just talking about design, I say a full business design. And then branding, which is online branding, not necessary. Small, medium business don't have very big capital. So not necessary to have large capital, but online branding, like what Isai and Vinay were mentioning about the tools. And marketing through the, not like the importer-exporter channel, but through online channel. So this is what primarily I had to say, and this is my action at the speed of thought is my philosophy. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'll encourage everybody to follow my social media. I have 1 million followers, and every day I post something. My email and phone is there. Thank you very much, Doug, again.
Action at the speed of thought. That's definitely Dr. Shah. So it's more than talking. You are actually, you're amazing in terms of how many people you touch. So congratulations on that. So we do have some questions. We have both online, and also you can send your questions to info@globalchamber.org. And the first question relates to something each of you touched on, that buyer behavior is shifting, and we tend to be locked into our own legacy thought processes, not just systems, but kind of where we are as a business. So how does a business take this buyer behavior shift and be able to make a shift within their business? I mean, you each touched on that a little bit, but could you further elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, the buyer shift had happened way before coronavirus. So just to be clear, a lot of companies are just stuck in an old mindset. So I want to make that clear that, you know, e-commerce has been growing pretty consistently 20% a year for like 15 to 20% a year in the US, at least the US, and other countries is a little different. But so it's just accelerated now. And I think the companies have to really start to think about, okay, if this is how my consumers want to buy, which is, and I think you mentioned it includes industrials, because a lot of people in B2B are very resistant, more than business to consumer. They're like, oh, I sell car parts, I can't sell them online. One of our most successful clients sells automotive parts online, all online. And so you have to build them up. You have to start thinking about, how does your business work on, like, what, you know, I would start at the people side. What people do you need to sell online? Because a lot of times they have, you know, 100 people on staff or whatever it is, and no one is qualified to do any of this. And then they go try and hire Trellis, and, oh, Trellis will solve it. It's like, well, we can't just like completely fix your entire business. Like, we can't like run, like, you have to have the internal skill set. So I would start to look at like who internally, whether it's either promoting people, or probably you're going to have to think about some staff changes to get like a qualified e-commerce manager, whether that's part-time or full-time, because someone internally has to be the champion of this, and they have to be, you know, an expert or become an expert as quickly as possible. So I think the biggest challenge that we see is that companies aren't staffed correctly for this. They don't have the internal talent, and then they never get anywhere because they jump around from agency to agency thinking the agencies are the problem, when, you know, they're not necessarily the problem.
Got it.
So, does that make sense?
So can I add to that? So
please do. Yeah.
If you, for example, in the physical world, forget about the online world. If you wanted to know, you've gone to a new country and you want to know how people buy in that country. So what would you do? You go to the marketplace, right? And walk around and see how people are shopping, and try to be a buyer yourself. And, you know, like the experience of bargaining in Bali, right? Where, you know, you start at 100,000 rupees and come down to 100 rupees. So there's a, you know, you have to really look at that. So online is the same thing. Try to be a buyer if you want to know how to sell. So try to buy everything you need, you know, through online places, and try to go through that experience yourself. And a lot of these platforms and marketplaces, they're adapting to the changing consumer behavior. So you learn a lot from that process.
Got it. Okay, that's a great idea in terms of understanding that. I think Dr. Shah, you mentioned about how the people that you work with, they buy stuff online, but their business doesn't. So how do you get them to you must have tricks and in that the way you do that to be able to get them to think that, hey, maybe I should do this for my business.
Yeah. So that's what I tell them. So when they raise hands, and for both, I mean, when they say they buy online, but they don't sell, I tell them it means you have the confidence on products made by others. So you are buying, but you don't have confidence on your own products. So you are not selling online. Because a lot of them tell me, oh, there is a return policy and products will come back. So I said, yeah, I asked them, how many times do you return when you buy? If it is satisfactory to your quality, do you return? They said, no. So I said, why will anyone return your goods if it is of right quality? So, I try to put them into the buyer's shoes.
Yep. I also love the idea of the internal champion that Isaiah talked about, because if let's say it's the CEO or the head of the company really gets it, how can they do it on their own? Because they're going to go into that next meeting and all they'll get is stonewalling and arguments and for all the reality that they're stuck in. So is the way that a CEO or somebody who's going to lead this, they need to do a shakeup. Right?
I mean, let me explain how I see it, because it's a little different, I think, in the United States than in India. But in the United States, and this might be somewhat in other countries, the companies are usually made up of a lot of people that are selling to, let's say you sell apparel, but most of your sales are selling to other stores. So you have people that sell to these other stores and they want to be on calls. They're very fearful, like, oh, if we go to all e-commerce, then what do I do? You know what I mean? So all of a sudden it's like, they have to really think about the cultural shift. And do you pivot those people into, what I always tell people is, hey, make those people account managers, have them get their customers to sign up to buy online and then account manage them through the process of growing those accounts. And maybe instead of having 10 accounts, you can have 100 accounts, because you don't have to have them place the orders on the phone every time. You can just have them, place those orders online, which is a lot more efficient. So I think it's a lot of fear mindset. It's defensive mindset. A lot of companies also tell us, oh, well, our pricing, we can't put our pricing online. And so there's a lot of problems around pricing. They haven't figured out how to make pricing, scalable. I've worked with billion-dollar companies that still have their pricing is just like, well, it kind of depends on what we want to charge you. Like they don't have, there's no standard pricing. So they try and get away with whatever they can charge for individual customers. So you have to figure out how to basically transform your model to be more, automated online, basically.
I mean, when you're add to that cultural shift, I think, sometimes you may have to, overall your staff, but there might be ways to save them, where you have your internal champion, you have a strategist who really knows this and figured it out, and let that person create the strategy, and then he's going to need help to implement that. Then you look at your existing staff and think about their existing skills and experience and see which part of the strategy can benefit from a particular staffer. So start creating new projects and new work assignments for them. And it's like, when we moved from US to India, my daughter was only 2.5 years old. She slept in America, woke up in India, didn't know the difference. So it's like, you slowly get them busy and really start working on, something solid, and the shift happens much more faster. But if you're going to have a lot of meetings and say, hey, we're going to have to change your thinking and strategy, you have to change your mindset and all these things, you're going to have a lot of resistance. So forget about that. Figure out exactly what needs to be done, and then divide it up into chunks and projects and start assigning the work and give them some milestones.
Yeah, I think that's, obviously telling people that they're going to have to change and their job's obsolete is not going to really help very much. So, you have to give them some clear objectives and tasks and things. I mean, we've had to convert people's roles, and, it doesn't always work 100%, but it's better than, it does work a lot if you do it right. We've had it been pretty successful where we've converted people's roles and they ended up being really, really successful in new roles.
Okay. Do each of you?
the social media, like he mentioned, that's another really untapped, it's a gold mine, if you really know how to tap into that. And, how to use it for your business might be a little bit different from, from some other business. So you have to really figure out the specifics of your business and how and which platform is going to be best for you. And yeah, email continues to be a great channel, and SMS is fantastic. At the same time, on social media is where your customers are, and you have to meet them where they are, and you really have to engage them right there. I see many examples where people are spending a lot of time creating posts. The posts are fantastic. They get a lot of engagement. They also get a lot of questions, but they don't answer the questions, and they're not engaging them, so they think their work is done after they post it. No, that is where it starts, right? So you need to learn how to have conversations online on the social platforms, as opposed to, and many of them are, somebody asks a question, they just answer a question. Do you have this? Answer is yes, and end of story. They don't extend it, so, okay, what are you looking for? So, there needs to be a conversation as opposed to just a, question and answer.
Okay. So you're all talking about shifts in behavior and business process and things like that. So how does somebody who thinks that this is probably something for their business and they're not sure what to do, how do they engage? Do they give you a call and you talk through it? How do each of you handle this? I know, Dr. Shah, you have your own unique style when you give presentations a lot, but you also do one-on-one work, right? So how do you use examples, it sounds like, but you engage people and you talk through their business in particular, right? How do you get them to then practically digest what they need to do and then actually implement?
Yeah, so we generally have a very good team. So we call it a QMR, a quick market research report. We prepare a 1-pager, 2-pager QMR, and we send it to them, and then we are on the call with them, or like there's a video call, and I primarily show them exactly their type of business, other people who are selling online. That's it, because they are so comfortable with that, because they feel if somebody else, and then I tell them, if somebody else is doing, why you can't do it? That's it. So that is actually also hurting their ego in a way, because because they feel that, yeah, oh wow, my competitor is doing, so I am smart enough, and why I can't do it? So there are a lot of tools here, but this QMR is very impactful because we put data into it. We put it together in a day. We have a very good team which does this work, and they look at the data and they understand one thing by looking at the data, that we understand their business. And therefore, later on, whatever we say, they believe, because the kind of data we give is always with a source and reference. And just the report is so practical that they get a feeling that we understand their business. And that is a great starting point. Because otherwise, they generally feel that I am in this business for 20 years. Who are you to tell me about my business?
Okay. Do you do what like Vinay and Isaiah talked about, where you'll give some guidance, maybe even down to specific people within the organization that either need to be moved out or shifted? Is that the level of help that you provide as well?
Yeah, actually what we do, we have a very unique strategy. So what we do, we tell once he is signed up with us, we tell them that you identify one of your key staff who is loyal to you, trustworthy, and has been for some time in your company, and send that he or she to our office in Ahmedabad for 15 days. And they have to work from our office for you for 15 days. And we will give them the task and they work from our office. I tell them, you are building an e-commerce site. How does it matter you are working from Bangalore or from Ahmedabad? So you work in my office, and every day, morning to evening, my team and me, we mentor them or her, and we prepare them not only from the point of view of the person himself or herself who has come, but a whole team. So they know. I ask, who are your people? What are their functions? So what do you think we should be doing with this person? And then every day evening or every alternate day, we talk to the CEO, all three of us, the CEO, me, and his staff, which is in my office. So 15 days, that person's mindset is completely ready with all questions answered, and they are like they roll out so quickly.
Okay, Isaiah, you talked about this as well, right? Is there's a
Yeah,
back and
it's
that
not
you do.
exactly, we're actually figuring out how to maybe provide a service around it. Right now, it's not technically something that we're like selling, although I think we should be. We're just still trying to figure out, like, most of what we do is design and development and marketing and like more clear-cut kind of tangible services around that. But we're trying to kind of build a model that basically helps them figure out, like, do they have the right e-commerce manager? And we've been doing that more kind of as like a free ad hoc service right now. Basically just, you know, the number one thing we make clear is like, who's going to run this? Who's going to run? I like to call it the e-commerce manager because, you know, like, someone has to be running e-commerce, and if it's not going to be the CEO, which usually it's not, unless it's a really small company, then someone has to be cross-department, because e-commerce is cross-department. You have to know you have to help with the marketing, you have to help with the logistics, operations, and so that's why I think companies get it wrong, is because they don't understand it's a cross-department role. It's really more of a vice president director role, and they put some sort of junior person on it, and it doesn't get anywhere.
Yeah, the nephew.
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. So right now you're providing some of that support, but not charging for it, I guess, right?
Yeah, we haven't figured out exactly what the best way to monetize it is. We're still working on that.
So we've only got two more minutes left. So I'd like to just kind of go to each of you, maybe for a 30-second wrap up. Is there anything else that you want to either that hasn't been said yet, or that you just like to recap to our audience? Isaiah, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think my biggest advice is start moving. I think so many companies are paralyzed and overthinking it, and they take years to make progress. I mean, I think Shah, you mentioned like 1,000 days. I think that's a good like, you're talking about 3 years to get from zero to like something that's really, you know, working. So, you know, if you take 6 months to find a provider and figure out your requirement, like, these companies try and spend so much time trying to figure out what to do, instead of just at least making some agile projects and progress and tangible progress. I think too many companies are just too slow and paralyzed, and you gotta start somewhere.
Okay.
My advice.
Speed is of essence.
It's important. Yeah.
Yeah. How about Vinay? How about you? A 30-second wrap up?
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything, but most important thing is to act and also to get help. If you have not done this, it's not something you can kind of dream up and suddenly develop the capabilities overnight. So get help. On our website, we have a simple form, and we are offering free consultations. So if you want to discuss, it might be you need a combination of imagination, knowledge, and experience. So we really sit through and look at what are the assets you have, what are the things that you can sell and market, and also the team, like Isaiah said, or look at your team, and also what kind of resources you have to invest in this. So you really have to sit down and kind of map out a strategy. You know, given the situation, what are my best options right now, and proceed with clarity, but you don't have to get paralyzed. So to get that, we can help you get that clarity, at least think through the whole thing. And then, it's up to you. If you want us to help build that whole thing and take it to the market, we can do that. But, depends on, your available capital and time and resources. But at least we can help you think through what are your options in this current situation. So go to our website, alchemy.com, and fill up the form, and we're ready to help.
Yeah, and that imagination process, which is so important, is so enabled when you talk to an expert like any of these three folks who are not burdened by the current reality or the past reality of your business. Dr. Shah, I'll let you finish up. What would you like to leave us with?
Thank you, Raj. So my message to SMEs is it's okay to fail, but fail early and fail small. So e-commerce gives you that opportunity. Second, I always tell that innovation is do one thing better than anyone else. Shah and both Vinay talked about it. product differentiation, do one thing better than anyone else. And third, hire for attitude and train for skills. Hire young people, hire young interns for your e-commerce business. They are digitally connected. They know how to take this forward. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, the permanent constant now is change. Either you be an agent of change or a victim of change.
Don't be a victim. That's a great way to finish up. Thank you, Isaiah, Vinay, and Dr. Shah, so much for your time today. Thank you all. I have a really great crowd today around the world, so thank you for listening in. Thank you for your questions. If you have additional questions, send them into info@globalchamber.org. Watch for a blog post and a recording of this going forward. And then, as many of you know, most of you know, I think Global Chamber is very virtual. We had 17 events last week. We have 13 this week. Tried not to hit 13, tried to be 14 or 12, but somehow we hit 13 this week. And next week we have a similar, lots of opportunities to connect up with experts like you saw today. It's so critical right now in your business to talk to somebody outside to get a different perspective, to get a different thought. Don't be a victim. This is an opportunity to change and to be a lot more successful going forward. So stay engaged with our events, stay engaged with our warm introductions, all virtual. It's great that people are discovering virtual because that's the way Global Chamber is. Thank you all. Thanks. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.